In western New York, about 30 miles south of Rochester, lies the village of Geneseo, home to the National Warplane Museum. It's an outfit dedicated to the restoration, preservation, display, and flight of aircraft of the World War II and Korean War eras, as well as honoring all the United States military personnel for their service and sacrifice. Here, a dedicated group of men and women, both veterans and some still on active duty, are working on probably their museum's most historically significant project. It's a World War II veteran C-47, affectionately called Whiskey 7. She's decked out in her actual D-Day configuration as aircraft number 37 in the 37th Airlift Squadron of the 316th Troop Carrier Group. Back in 1944, Whiskey 7 was the lead aircraft of the second wave of troop transports which dropped the famed 82nd Airborne Division over Normandy on D-Day. Plans are being made for Whiskey 7 to return to the greatest moment in her history, once again flying over Mere-Eglise 70 years after that original historic mission. On her 2014 flight, Whiskey 7 will once again carry paratroops, but this time they'll be members of the Liberty Jump Team, some of whom are veterans of service with the 82nd Airborne.
I retired after 25 years in the Army. I was a lieutenant colonel, and I served in the 82nd Airborne Division in 2006 to 2008, including 15 months in Afghanistan. As a former Army paratrooper and someone who has a deep respect for veterans, I feel this is a great way to honor their memory, their sacrifices, and their achievements. Making the jump on the 70th, on an original drop zone, on the exact day, and from an aircraft that actually participated in the original airborne operations would be absolutely phenomenal. And even though there's going to be a great expense to get this aircraft over to Europe and then back home to New York again, I think it's absolutely worth it just for the historical significance and the fact that the people of France and the people who are gathered there to watch this will get to see something that they will never get a chance to see again, most likely, and hasn't been seen in 70 years.
U.S. Airways International Captain Chris Polhemus is Whiskey 7's chief pilot and will be in command during her flight to Europe.
The significance of flying our C-47 to Europe in 2014 is huge. Whiskey 7 was the lead aircraft in the second serial, or the second wave of airplanes across the English Channel on June the 5th, 1944. It has a real significance because there will be quite a few veterans from the D-Day invasion that'll be celebrating the 70th anniversary over there in Normandy, and we hope to honor their accomplishments, what they did for the world, not just for us, but the entire world, by recreating this flight.
Captain Kevin Coughlin, United States Air Force, is with the same squadron that Whiskey 7 belonged to in 1944, and we're hoping to celebrate the 70th anniversary of D-Day by flying alongside the men and women of today's 37th Airlift Squadron.
W7 was the 37th Troop Carrier Squadron during World War II, and we are currently the 37th Airlift Squadron, which is an offshoot or historically related to the W7. I'm currently stationed at Ramstein Air Base, Germany, and my job is to provide combat airlift throughout the European theater. I think it would be great if Whiskey 7 made it to the D-Day celebration. I think it would make a big impact on that 70th anniversary, since they actually dropped over St. Mere-Eglise. We are always reminded in our squadron that we stand on the shoulders of giants. That's a heritage and a legacy that we need to upkeep in the 37th, and our squadron commander constantly reminds us of that.
Can you imagine having been a young man on D-Day in the back of one of these airplanes at night with the Germans shooting at you. These guys put it all on the line. They hung it out there. And 70 years later, to have somebody come back and reenact what you had done as a young man, in my mind, there's no greater way to honor these guys than to bring that airplane back. It will be a challenge to fly this aircraft across the North Atlantic and back again. What we propose to do is fly one of the blue spruce routes, which was a lot more common, taking aircraft over to Central Europe. Depending on the ground speeds, it's going to be between 5.5 to 7 hours in our airplane to fly each leg. It will be a challenge flying the airplane over there. But probably more of a challenge will be to fly the airplane from Europe back to the States into the prevailing westerly winds, where we will have a lower ground speed. It'll be about 25 hours of flight time to bring the airplane to the United Kingdom, and probably closer to 35 hours of flying time back.
It'll be an absolute honor for me to be able to jump out of Whiskey 7 over Normandy on D-Day 2014 as a former paratrooper of the 82nd Airborne Division, but more importantly, to honor the memory of the veterans and to make sure that people don't forget their sacrifices and the hardships that they endured to liberate France.
You know, we're really doing this for the nation, you know. This is something that we should be proud of. This is our history, and we're really doing it for the people that have gone before us.
This flight will probably be the most honorable thing that any of us could ever do. It's putting the United States of America on a world stage. And it's not just honoring the veterans and the servicemen that participated, but it's showing to the world what the essence of our culture is. We're there to keep freedom alive, to assure that these people have the liberties and the freedoms that we have in the United States. It's the ultimate sacrifice.
Even with everyone donating their services, it's estimated to cost at least $250,000 to fly Whiskey 7 from Geneseo to Normandy and back. All too soon now, the relatively few remaining members of America's greatest generation will no longer be with us. We're hoping that you'll help us keep this significant part of our nation's history alive as we reenact their courageous efforts on D-Day 1944. Those efforts were a big part of preserving the liberties and freedoms we enjoy today. We need to remember and celebrate them as a big part of what makes our country the greatest nation on earth. Any contribution you can make will help us do that and will be most gratefully appreciated. We owe so much to that brave group we call the greatest generation, and the return flight of Whiskey 7 is an exciting way to preserve the memories, to keep their history vibrant and alive.